Italy? Whiskey? Ah, Italy, you could never unlock my secret. Oh no! Suddenly, hello, Levy! Let's begin. Indeed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and this is the Fireside Chat, and I am joined this week by the Women Against Feminism founder, or are you a founder? One of the founders, yeah. And it's pronounced Johnny? Yana, sorry. I have a... I'm bad with names. Yeah. And so you did, okay, first of all, you are one of the founders of a online group, I guess. It was called Women Against Feminism. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is or was? All right. I'm sorry, just a moment. I'm having for some reason your sound isn't coming out in OBS. I can fix that though. Give me just a moment and we'll get this right. It's been a while since I've done a fireside chat, and see it. My computer moved things around. I don't know why. Okay, say something now. Okay, I see it. Yes, now we're good. Okay, so I was asking you.
Yeah.
Thank you again about the story behind Women Against Feminism. So go ahead.
Okay, so Women Against Feminism was something that started on Tumblr. It was like, you could say there were regular women who blogged about different things. You know, some people blogged about anti-feminism, being an anti-feminism, and some women probably just blogged about their life, maybe being a housewife, cooking, and stuff like this, right? And while within the small anti-feminist circles of Tumblr, let's say there were a few women who were blogging on their own personal blogs about why they are anti-feminist. I was also blogging about why I am not a feminist, right?
Right.
And then one of the women decided to pull a lot of the blogs together in a sense, and so like pull from many different women. And so we were blogging, and this was probably a largely unnoticed thing. Then what happened is that feminists had their like hashtag who needs feminism, where they would hold pictures and say, this is why we need feminism, basically.
I remember that.
Right. So they
Yeah.
started doing that, and the Women Against Feminism started to do the same. So on our blogs, or the women, their blogs, they would put, and then someone started this website, this Tumblr called Women Against Feminism, which would pull those pictures and also blog post and also post herself about stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this got a lot of attention. It got, because it went with the hashtag, it got a lot of attention, and it started to go viral. At the same time, we started a Facebook group called Women Against Feminism for people who like just were interested in being women against feminism. And so people came into the Facebook group.
Yeah.
There was a Facebook page, and all of the pictures started to be posted to it, and this went viral. So this was Women Against Feminism going viral, and then a lot of people saw it, especially feminists. Feminists sort of just flood the Facebook group, completely flooded, they have more numbers than us when they're angry, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they came in, and it was like a lot of like, y'all are bad because y'all are doing this to women. Women fought for this and that. We're standing on the backs of women. This is really bad for women. It's bad, and well, so what happened is that first of all, they trolled the group a lot, right? Lots of trolling.
Mm-hmm.
They triggered, at the time, Facebook used to have it such that if you trigger certain things enough, then you would be like viewed as a hate group. So it got to the point where the group was triggered as a hate group and then got taken down. But in addition to that, the original person who started the blog post, and she felt really bad about the way in which feminists sort of was saying that we are anti-woman, you know.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, well, she doesn't want to do it anymore because she is not feminist. She is against feminism. She does have all these reasons why she's not a feminist, but she's not against women, and she doesn't really want to be involved in something that makes you feel bad, makes her feel like if she's being a bad person or like if she's hurting women. So so she's like, no, okay, she's not starting it again after we got taken down as a hate group. And then I said, well, okay, I still want to go ahead with the group. So I started the group again. This is a point where like
This still on Facebook?
it's still on Facebook. So Honey Badgers,
Okay.
at the time, y'all had a group, but our group got taken down. And so I asked Allison to help me, and she did. So she posted for me and Badgers and so on that we were starting a group, and that's how the group got started. And and so that group is still there today. We try to be very careful not to have hate so that we wouldn't get taken down. So it never got taken down. And you know, at the time the whole thing went viral. So there were a lot of women who were interested. A lot of women were anti-feminist, and it was really a good time because it was before people started to like segregate themselves into like conservative and this and that.
Oh yeah, sure.
So it was before we had all our little groups, you know? So it was a really diverse group, and we had like admins from all the different, so there are like a few different categories of women who are usually anti-feminist. Like you have your Christian anti-feminist, you have your atheist but still traditional anti-feminist, you have your MRA anti-feminist, and then there are also like egalitarian anti-feminists who see both men and women have issues. So we had like admins from all that, from all the different things. Then also there was a Read It that was started, also that got taken down. But at you know, someone we also one of the women started a Read It, so that was also something good. And the YouTube channel at the time also got started, so there was a YouTube channel, and then we had a campaign where like women were making videos saying why they're not a feminist from the group, and then I took clips from it and clips from their video and tried to channel back to their page and stuff like this. So because they uploaded it all to their page, so that was something. But a lot of it like that didn't get noticed because yeah. But so what happened really is that so with all of that diversity, what happened is that the truth is like, yeah, women against feminism are women against feminism, but they don't all agree. So, you know, you could be anti-feminist because you're an egalitarian. You believe that men and women need to be equal and that feminism is not equality. And you think women have problems and men have problems and da, da, da. But then you could also be MRA anti-feminist in the sense that you think women actually don't really have problems and it's men who have the problem. Or you could be a conservative, traditional anti-feminist who does not want equality. You hate equality. You want women to be in the kitchen and men to be out there. So what ended up happening is that these women, especially like within the admin group and stuff, started to fight with each other a lot. And it's all just like, you know, everybody wanted it their own way. And they don't want to be associated with the people who wanted an opposite way. So there was a lot of infighting.
Yeah.
And so what I did at the time, and I also got hurt because I also have my version of anti-feminism. So
well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Yeah.
So everybody had their own version, and everybody sort of got hurt. Like everybody across the board got hurt by the fact that other people have other versions and want other things. So at the time, what I said was that I said, okay, I'll step back because I really also can't deal with this. But I said that everybody who of the admins who have their own version should like advertise their group within the group. So you had the MRA.
Oh, sure.
So they had the MRA anti-feminist, which was like Natty. You probably know her, Natty Khalifa, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Right. So she started the group hold on.
Oh,
Women
women. There was Women
fighting,
Against Feminism, and
no,
then
it
it
was
was
women
a
fighting feminism.
yeah,
Women
Women
fight,
Fighting Feminism.
right. So
Yeah.
she started Women Fighting Feminism, which was the MRA group. Then the Christian anti-feminist, she started her own group, which was called Traditional. It was a traditional group, right? Which did really well. That's the one group that was very successful from it and it still is there today. And then you had okay, so there's also another group of people who are like, they're concerned about birth rates and so on. They are usually traditional, but not religious. They started their own group. But this girl, she kind of changed her mind with time. So, and then, right. And then the last group of anti-feminists was really egalitarians, which kind of more aligns with me. So I just gave the group to that admin. So
Yeah.
I just gave Women Against Feminism to that admin and I just stepped out. But the problem is that that admin gave the group to somebody else, and that admin gave the group to somebody else, and that admin gave the group to somebody else. And then it ended up being really sidetracked from what Women Against Feminism was, and it ended up being a kind of group with an egalitarian goal. And that wasn't what Women Against Feminism was, because it was something where it was inclusive of everybody, and it was just to show the views of Women Against Feminism. It wasn't really to say things must be egalitarian, you know?
Right. Right.
So I think so because they went extreme egalitarian, the pool of people then, of course, got much smaller because there's also some truth in numbers in that the majority of women against feminism they were Christian. This is just how it is that the majority are the Christian anti-feminists,
Sure. Sure.
right? So they are not egalitarians. This is not the reason why they are not.
Right.
So the majority got locked out. It became a very small sort of subgroup and thing. And then the group kind of died off. And so now I decided to kind of step back in and I'm trying to sort of recreate something similar to what Women Against Feminism was or was supposed to be I am like on a journey to interview as many anti-feminist women.
I see.
And I
Okay.
also want to interview anti-feminist men. So I am basically on a journey to interview as many anti-feminists as I can, and I want to pull it onto the Women Against Feminism uh, YouTube. And I want
Yeah.
to interview men for another YouTube channel also. But the point is, I really want to interview and get the views of as many anti-feminist people as I can because I think that's what Women Against Feminism was when it started. It was just the views of different women who are not feminists and why, we are not feminists and why we see the world different. And it was about diversity. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's important. So yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like what happened. So I'm actually in the current I'm in that group, Women Against Feminism on Facebook. I don't go there very often. There's still a lot of like, I just sort of like see it in my feed and I keep moving. I don't use Facebook for much, I post memes and that's it. But what it sounds like happened is the group kind of fell into purity spiraling where people were and it might be a problem with the fundamental philosophy of the group itself because if you say we are defining this group by what we are against, you'll find a lot of people saying yes, I'm against this thing, but then when it comes to what they're for, that's where the conflict comes in, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that's not a bad thing as long as people can understand, that we are fighting against the same enemy, even if we have different goals. But maybe it's about like, can we set aside, our goals or at least just live them out in our personal life while we're, fighting against this thing? Because the truth is, and you tell me what you think about that. Because feminism is the way of the world right now, right? It is like what everyone is defaulted to. So women speaking out against it is very important because it is supposed to be for them. That's why it exists. But if they say, well, look, I don't need that, that is a big plus. But then, you have to be able to accept that some people are going to want to live a Christian life. Some people are going to want an egalitarian life. Some people are going to want, a secular traditional life that's not Christian, whatever. But we can do all that while still, I guess, understanding that feminism is not like whatever our answers are. That's not one of them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing is, feminism has a lot of flaws from many different angles. One is that they think they can speak for women when women are extremely diverse, and definitely they cannot speak for the majority of women. Uh, they also, of course, they don't include men. They say they want equality, and they don't care about men. This is, I
Oh,
mean,
it's not just that they don't care; it's that they hate men, and it doesn't even it doesn't really offer anything to women either. They don't just dislike men; they also dislike women. It's just about
and especially women who want to get along with men, because
yeah,
there are women who want to build with men, who want marriage, who want some sort of stable relationship with men, who want to work together with men, and who understand that the sexes are genuinely codependent. We are not against each other, and it makes no sense to pit men and women against each other because we are codependent. This is not the same as classism or racism and stuff like this, how they like to convolute the two and say, well, racism is the same as sexism. No, it's not the same. Racism is a form of classism. That is like, a rich person versus a poor person. Rich people don't care about poor people because they don't have to live together. However, the sexes, they are codependent. Men, as a man, you care more about your mother or your daughter or your wife than you do about some guy who lives in Asia. So there is
yeah,
no like unity between men and men, or unity between women in the same way that there would potentially be between men and women who have to live together. So yeah,
yes. And
feminism.
plus, what you're for as a woman,
Yeah,
like we're talking about the women's group, right? So you have women who are Christian, women who are some who are egalitarian, whatever, right?
mhm,
You
mhm.
probably also have, women in the group that were, let's say, women in the group that were against feminism full stop no matter what. Then you had some women that were probably for, like feminism of the past or feminism
Right.
in another
Yeah.
country. And
Right.
that's going to be a conflict too, because
Right.
I
Because
think,
mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because sometimes you also interact with extremists as well, who it's not the norm, but you have extremists who say they hate as you said, who hate feminism completely, and they say they want to go back to the woman has have no vote. Like they want to go
Hmm.
back to a point where women have no vote and stuff like this. And I think this is a little bit of a outlier. This is an extremist position, but
It is an extremist position. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like, that's another, another one of these conflicts. This is why I think it's, well, I don't know what if you are looking for my perspective,
Yeah, yeah, I
but
am. Yeah, yeah.
okay. So, I think that I think that there is room for conversations around like what we want, because like if the rules are all built by feminism today, which they are, the
Right.
governments and the
And they're
media and
in the
everything, that
schools, they're in
it's in the
universities.
schools, right? It's
And
what
the
it's
problem is that they're in universities, they're teaching women
mhm.
these things. And then women are the majority of our like early childhood teachers and stuff. They have a feminist view, and they're teaching this to children. They're
Right.
teaching this idea that men were oppressive to women and that women are the victims of society. And somehow this needs to be corrected with feminism. Well,
Yeah.
it's just it is such a wrong analysis of reality.
Yes, and it is the only solution that's offered. This is one of the reasons why you had feminists invading your women against feminism space,
Mhm.
is whether they knew it or not. And I think a lot of times women who are educated in feminism don't know why they feel this need to protect it, but they have a fear that without feminism, there's just going to be enslavement, because they are been propagandized, right, to
Right.
believe that if they don't constantly, if they don't have feminism, they will be slaves. And this is good for academic feminists, people in the, that make money off of this, get a lot of power from this, that's very useful to keep women in a state of dependency on feminism instead of dependency on, like their families, including their husbands, etc. So this is about replacing men with feminism, which is ultimately the government. And it's very effective. So like what I was going to say is there's room for conversations about what we want the world to look like without feminism, but it's kind of hard to imagine right now because it's all we have. So the I think that the conversations about how we structure our communities post feminism, if there is going to be a post feminism, I think they do have to happen, and I think it will mean for some very uncomfortable conversations with women because women are the ones that are going to essentially have to be the driver of this change. Men have been trying to talk about it, but they've been.
All men have a sympathy gap. People have no sympathy for men, so men are not listened to in the same way. And second of all, just like you need Black people to critique things, like they say only Black people can speak about this. The point is, it is better when women speak out because y'all are the ones who can critique it without being told you don't know what you're talking about. Now, in reality, everyone should be able to critique it, and that's nonsense. Like, in reality, what a man has to say about feminism is with, of course. But feminists are going to take it and say, you know what? You're just saying that because you're a man. You don't know what you're talking about. But they can't tell that to women. So it is important for women to speak out. And I have to say, the amount of fear that we witnessed in the eyes of feminism, when Women Against Feminism was viral, it was because we were women. That is why they were so afraid of us,
Yeah, and also, but they're becoming more aggressive, where you can't play the woman card with them as much because they'll just tell you you're not really a woman or you're a slave.
Tell us we're privileged.
Yes, youexactly.
They say you're a privileged woman. You just don't know because you're privileged. When we say they always sexual assault. We've been sexually assaulted. The men are sexually assaulting us. We're being, and then we say stuff like, hey, the men in our lives have protected us, have not, we haven't had that experience. So this is not something that's happening to every single woman. If I say something like that, you're privileged. Yeah, you haven't been sexually assaulted. It's because you're privileged. You should shut up. They just try to make you feel bad. And it's like, okay, I'm privileged, but they just want to invalidate anything that you could say. You know. Yeah.
Are you American by any chance? I know you have an accent, but where are you? Where are you from? Where you live?
I'm from the Caribbean, but I currently live in Europe.
Oh, Europe. Okay, like the UK or like
mainland. So I'm in Belgium.
Okay. Oh, okay, Belgium. But that's cool.
Yeah, but I am settled here in Belgium. But before now, I was always moving around, so it's very hard for me to see.
Oh, I see. So this is where you are now. I was bringing it up because I don't know if you're aware of what is happening in our country politically involving women in the United States here. So recently there was a ruling, and I want to know what your thoughts are on it, because I think this is like one of the very, very hot button issues for women in particular, or at least for a certain type of woman, where the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Have you heard about this? You know what Roe v. Wade is?
Yes, okay. And we actually somehow it applies also in the Caribbean because we use certain laws.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah, my family's from the Caribbean too. So, So this has become a very serious, like a very big issue. And the truth of it is that it's better law now. It was always bad law in the past, but because of, I think, gynocentric, the gynocentric political system, politicians, judges, etc., they didn't want to touch Roe v. Wade, even though it was bad law on a bad premise. And the way that it should be done is it should be done through the state. So each state, because this is how it was always supposed to be, has its own government and their own laws, and then the federal government protects like the very basic rights. And feminists were very upset about this, and they got women really upset about this. Now, I'm not trying to make this into a conversation about whether or not you are pro-life or pro-choice, because that's not really what's important. The point is that these services are still available. They're just not federally protected by bad law. They're basically like in a law that makes more sense, that is more in line with what is correct. And if if your state has limitations, then you may have to reconsider where you live. I don't know, and just go to another state or something. But the United States is a big place, and it's, again, most states aren't even going to change anything anyway, the way that they do things. But feminists got women so angry about it that they threatened to use their votes to destroy the country. And because women are the majority of voters, and they're also more likely to go out and vote, they might actually realize this. And so I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Okay, so I think that the major thing is always going to be, with respect to the whole abortion thing, is that men have no reproductive rights. Okay? Feminists claim that they want equality, right? Every time you argue with a feminist, they say it's just equality. We want equality. We want equality with men. Let's look at male reproductive rights. Men are not allowed to give up someone for abortion. I mean, for adoption, right? So they have what women are. If you birth a child, you can give this child up for adoption. You can say that you don't want to do anything with this child. You give up your child. Men don't have the right to walk away. If you get pregnant, you can, well, in theory, this is what we're discussing, but in theory, you can go somewhere to abort the child without a problem. This should be, I think, because I'm kind of I'm pro-choice. Yes. Okay. So, but the problem is that men don't have any sort of right. So my issue with feminists is not that they're extremely pro-choice. If they want to do that, you can do that. Fine, be pro-choice, but be pro-choice for both, because that is what equality is. As it is, a man could be raped and still have to pay child support for 18 years. So the situation for men with reproductive rights is really not ideal. In addition to which, I know that this is the fault of science, but men don't have a pill yet. So it makes it even worse. They do not have control over their reproduction because they don't have a pill, and they have no rights once that child is in the woman's body, and they cannot give up the child. While women have, every step of the way, we have a choice. We can use a pill, we can use hormones, we can use all sorts of preventative methods, right?
Yeah.
If something happens, we have morning after pills. We have, we have all sorts of options within the very early stage. If we don't notice within the very early stage, then we can go somewhere to get an abortion, as sad as it is. And I understand it's something sad, but your point is that usually the option is there. Okay, that all happened and we still don't want a child. We have a child that's a baby and we absolutely don't want a child. We can go and give that child up and relinquish all our parental duties after the child is born.
Yep.
Okay? Men cannot. They have nothing like that. They have nothing like that. The only thing a man can do is get a vasectomy. But this is the real, that's it. What else can men do? I mean, condoms. Okay.
No.
But,
well, yeah, sure. But I mean, even then, women, they sperm jack and these things. Nothing is a guarantee.
Right. And the point is and men are they still have to, of course, I mean, they will be having, we are in the way in which society is today. We are happy that we have birth control and thing, and therefore we want to enjoy that modern stuff. So yeah, they're going to be having sex with women when they don't want to have children. And they have no choices. So, yep. I mean, anytime you talk about the pro-choice, it is not even about pro-choice or pro-life. Actually, the pro-life people make more sense from that perspective, because at least they want equality. At least they're like, well, I'm pro-life. No one should be able to get out of this, right? But I mean, while they don't, but the point is, women have so many options. then feminists say that they are for equality, and then they slap us in the face by not caring about male thing. They should be out there campaigning. Every time they make an abortion sign, they should be making a men opt-out sign, because that is equality. You understand? Equality
Yeah.
between the genders is caring about the both. So every single abortion sign that they make, they need to make a sign for men to be able to give up their parental duties and responsibilities, because that is what they're arguing for women, and that is what women have gotten. Women are in a state and time where we can give up our parental duties as we wish, and men can't. They can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you've been doing this for a while now. What year did you start this whole thing? I know you
No,
mentioned Tumblr.
I haven't been doing it for a while, to be honest. What
Oh,
year did I start being an anti-feminist? In terms of blogging, probably around 2010.
that's still that's a long time.
No, no,
Yeah,
but then I
oh,
stopped. You know,
and then you stopped.
I
Yeah.
stopped after the whole woman against feminism. I came out of anti-feminism completely. So, and I'm now trying to get back in.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that your beliefs started
Oh, for
back
sure. From the
then.
first
Like,
second that I heard about feminism, I was like, what nonsense.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've never been a feminist. So that one, never.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So never. Okay. So I mean, if
But
you were,
I did, when I did leave Women Against Feminism, at this point, I did have the feeling that maybe I was wrong about stuff, but not to the extent that I would say I was a feminist. Not at all. I was just
right.
like, okay, maybe feminists have some, like maybe we should give them a bit more credit with some things, because like everything was getting very, very conservative, you know, and it was maybe a bit too conservative for me. So I was like, okay, maybe, you know, but not to the point where I would think I was a feminist, just to the point where I was like, okay, maybe they have some small points here.
Well, we could get into that. I was wondering because you were talking about how the group kind of splintered into little subgroups that were,
Yeah.
their own little camps, and some of them did better than others, and all this.
Right.
And so and you mentioned Natoya, Natty,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
I was friends with, or I consider
Right.
myself still her friend.
Yeah.
She's changed drastically. Like, she used to
Right.
make the women fighting feminism, and now
Right.
she's like,
More of a
very,
feminist.
very, very conservative, a little bit, yeah, feminist conservative, but
Right,
yes,
right,
you're right.
right.
And so what I'm thinking about is that, like, do you feel that you have changed since you mentioned it in a way, but like, in what ways do you think you have changed? Like, where do you think you changed the most,
so
and why?
I have changed, but not fundamentally. And I think that's the same for the other girl who I said who was more like with the group of people who were concerned about birth rates and things. She said she changed to the extent where she doesn't want to be involved in anti-feminism or anything negative, but fundamentally she still has the same beliefs. And I think I'm similar in that I
So
have
she's more of a
changed.
pro-natalist, like
She is
pro-family, pro-reproduction, worried about
family,
birth
pro
rates.
reproduction. Yes, she feels
Yes.
that she's worried about reproduction, and she feels, that yeah, I guess yeah, pro family, pro men and women from that perspective. Yeah. And I think often these people are called nationalists, but that's just a mean thing because they're not all racist or whatever. But
They
I
call
mean,
nationalists. I mean,
some of them they
yeah.
call that they like to associate them with that. Anytime people want to have children, then they claim it's nationalist.
Yeah. Well, that's just a tactic they use to shame people into not reproducing, so they can practice eugenics. And I'm a little bit more worried about eugenicists than nationalists, but that's just me.
Right. No, well, for me, like I said, when I started my first when I was blogging, the name of the blog was called Secular Traditionalist. So I was very traditionalist, but not very in that I always was pro LGBTQ stuff and stuff like that. So I wasn't ever, like that. But I was more traditionalist in that I was very concerned with proving why I was concerned with linking tradition with nature, because like I'm not religious, but I think that like religion, not religious like in terms of God, but I think that let's say you could say God is nature. I mean, is nature in that sense. I think that nature is as it is, and we don't have much control over. Okay, I'm not explaining it well. I think that the structures of society are influenced by nature, and that women and men have certain natures, if you want, you could say, or instincts or whatever.
More
And
like evolutionary, you're
right. So I
saying.
think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why I was more concerned with linking like evolutionary stuff to why we live in a society that looks the way it does. So, I mean, in a sense, I am blaming nature rather than men. So I'm trying to tell feminists, please stop blaming men for patriarchy. Please understand that this is something that comes directly from nature. No one had a choice. Not men, not women, not children, not birds, not bees. You know, nobody had a choice over the structure of society. This is what nature sort of chose for us because this was the model that produced most children during harsh times or whatever, right? So I'm just trying to tell feminists that they have placed the blame for the societal structure on men, and this is ridiculous. So I was more concerned with that, and I called myself the secular traditionalist, also because in terms of bias, of course, I am a traditionalist in that sense. I'm a housewife. But I don't believe in not working. Even as a housewife, I started my own business.
Sure.
So I lived in a house with a shop below. I started my own shop. Da, da, da. So I don't believe that like women have. I'm not this 19.
Well, yeah, I don't think women. I think women have always worked.
Right,
So I
me
mean,
too.
yeah, like so it doesn't like this idea that
Women were just
women
housewives.
should we're just stay at the
This
home.
is
Yeah, I
nonsense.
mean,
I agree.
yeah, it
So,
is. I
so
think women have always worked. But
that's my
yeah,
version of tradition. I hate when people always think that, the traditional woman just thinks somebody should stay home and bake cakes all day for her husband. It's not
no.
like that. It's like historically what happened is that we had farms and the women
Hmm.
were working part-time on the farms. Then she had kids. She did more at the home and he did more on the farm. Whenever she could help, she helped on the farm. When the kids got older, she helped on the farm. So I more see it like that. And then with businesses and stuff, it's the same. The husband
They
did
have
more.
always, yeah, they've always had them. Even before women's suffrage, women worked. Women owned land. Women
Right,
started businesses. They did cottage
right,
industries. Even if they didn't live on farms, if they lived in cities, let's say when the cities were starting during the Industrial Revolution, women would work in and around the home. It wasn't just like
right.
being a
And
housewife,
at that
right?
time, the work in the home had monetary value, whereas today it is different in that, we have dishwashers, washing
Well,
machines, whatever.
today women do the same things they did when they were at home, but now they get taxed for it, and they do it for somebody else, right? So they go
Right.
work
Well,
and they go work as a teacher or as a daycare person or in nursing or
right.
whatever. They do a lot of the same jobs that they would
Yeah.
have done in and around the home, but now the government can tax them
Right.
for it.
Well,
So
for me, yeah, and I see it as the situation changed, as in like in the home got easier because we have all this technology.
mhm.
So there was more time created. The situation changed. So now women will be working outside. I have no problem with that.
No,
Women will work outside, but I am not defining traditional like just a woman being at home. I'm saying you could be a traditional woman and have a job. It's not a problem. It's just traditional women take more of the child care and their career suffers for that. Whereas men
yes,
take on more of the other role, which is the outside, and that's how it is. And so I consider myself to be a trad wife, and yeah, because I did take a hit in terms of I never prioritized my career because I have kids. I prioritized being at home, and whatever career I would have has to be around them, you know.
yeah.
And that to me is traditional. It's what women have been doing for all of history. The fact that you may have some 1950s upper class woman who did something different does not make it that that is traditional, tradition, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I was a traditionalist, and my idea was that traditionalism, this relationship between men and women, how the church sort of describes it, despite the fact that I'm not religious, is something that sort of comes out of nature. It speaks to human nature. It works with human nature as much as possible because human nature is so complex. Many systems work, but this one is one that has been successful during harsh times, and that is why we have it. So I sort of adopt it, and I have no problem with it. So I was like this. But then, of course, I mean, if you look at where I guess I got more open minded in the sense that I can't talk about it in good faith much anymore because I know that it hurts people and that it's complex, that maybe it's not so simple because, people have, I mean, you can argue that, but then it gets more complicated when you're dealing with real people who have real
Yes.
situations, who it won't align with. And the reality is that, of course, I have those beliefs because it fits with my lifestyle. It's because by chance I happen to be in this situation and it works for me. So it's not something that will work for everyone, or,
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, John, I totally get it. So we're talking about. I noticed that while we're discussing this, like this term, traditionalist keeps coming up, and what I find it interesting because it's like we're trying to put it in a category that is kind of separate from another arrangement, but I don't know what another arrangement would be other than something that's a bit more, I guess, feminist approved, like, okay, like staying single, your whole life. Well, I'm just wondering because, like, most women and most men want to find a partner and they
But like
want to start a
feminists, they
relationship.
don't want that the woman depend on the man. That's their
Right,
problem
but
with traditional.
yeah, yes, but like let's set aside what feminists think because or what they want because it isn't what most people want.
Right.
Most men want to find a good woman. Most women want to find a good man. That's the reality. Now, how that plays out in our modern society is, I think, where we get into some messy stuff, like the ways that feminism has affected, women's expectations of men, the way that that has affected the dating market, the way that's affected men as a consequence that can't, and also the fact that women have entered, into the workforce en masse and they've been sort of promoting this sort of materialistic worldview, like women are being told that they're to be a good to have a good life means to pursue like a very ambitious career, make as much money as possible, wait until you're in your 30s to have kids, right? And then they'll wait, and then they'll realize that maybe they can't have children or they can only have like one child, and this is where you get into the birth rate thing. So without taking a side on any of these other sort of subgroups, I'm thinking about what do we call an arrangement that is best for men and women, obviously on a case by case basis, but let's say in broad strokes, for the sake of broad strokes, because not all men want to get married, not all women want to get married, but most do. Okay, so how do yeah.
Yeah, so my idea, it was also at some point like the whole, like you said, the word traditionalism. It is just a guide. It's not like you can't take it so seriously to say that everyone will do it. No, no, no. It's just that, society probably had some whispers and some guides to, okay, this worked for the ancestors, this setup, it worked,
If you think about it, the idea that what we call traditionalism, this is why I hesitate to use the word because I think it's just normal. Like there's just normal, and then there's abnormal, right?
It's been tarnished.
It has been. It has.
Right, because they try to associate it with this sort of extreme, caricature of
a woman chained to the stove, pregnant, and making sandwiches. Yeah,
and she has no other life except, and then they want to think that submit means she does this. Yes, master. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so you get into this. This is why I'm bringing it up, and I'm glad that you're noticing, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Is that this idea of traditionalism is so tainted because of propaganda from feminists, and women are they're made to be very afraid of this as like a negative consequence, right?
They're still fair because they're like, oh no, if we let the men think that, then they'll just think that we want to submit and be beaten all day, and it's like, no, actually, this is a guide. It's something that, and I think it speaks to our nature. to be honest. If I'm
Yeah.
honest, I think
I
that
agree.
I think that men and women are not identical when it comes to their sexualities and when it comes to this core of what makes you a man and what makes you a woman. I think that
Yeah.
we have very different instincts in terms of our sexuality, right? And
Yeah.
I think that in terms of women's nature, women want to submit. I know that's a bold thing to say, but I do think that women want to find men who they can submit to. And I don't know, I won't go so far to say that men want to, no, men don't want, I don't think men want that, but the men want to protect. And so I think with this setup, with us having this sort of nature where men seek to protect, women seek to be protected, to be that this is what religious society base their advice. Just
Yeah.
advice doesn't mean you have to do it.
Well,
It base
that,
their
yeah.
advice on. And I
Yeah.
understand that traditionalists of the past took it really far and they were bad and they made everybody do it. I understand that was not
Maybe.
right. But
I think that's another thing though. This idea that if we put it in perspective, because
right,
you're talking about evolution and how things have changed.
right.
What we call traditionalism today
Yeah.
was the norm for like most of our history, like all the way up until what, the mid 20th century maybe. Like traditional, marriages with children, living on
Monogamy.
farms, monogamy, all of that. That is,
Monogamy, with all it is we're talking about here is just monogamy, where where
yeah,
women take more care of children and
yeah,
men do a little bit more with providing. So
right,
we have a certain division of roles where because they're children and she's busy with them, he's going to be providing within this. That's all it is. There's nothing
yeah.
more to it, really.
Yeah, and for
Um,
most of our history, that's all it was up
mhm.
until very recently. So we have this whole idea of a non-traditionalist organization or relationship arrangement is very, very recent. In fact, even dating is really recent if you think about it, because for most of history, you only knew the people that were in your community. And so you, like, the girl you would meet would be someone who went, who lived in your community. Maybe she was, it was between families. I'm not saying we should go back to that. I'm just saying that arranged relationships, whether it was intentional or incidental because of geography, that is like most of our history. So everything that we're dealing with now is very, 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 very new, and we don't know what the consequences of this is going to be. And I think that it is why there is so many problems in the dating market where women are,
So I have strong theories on that as well, but
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
just going to say theories. Not that I think it's
Yeah,
correct.
let's hear your theories. No, it's okay. Like, we shouldn't be ashamed to like speculate. So go
But
ahead.
this is pure speculation, gross speculation. So I think that what happens is that during very harsh times, women need men, of course, right? We need community, we need each other. Everybody has to pull together. There's no money, there's no resources, there are no resources, or whatever. Women need men, and so I think during times of low resources, humans tend to gravitate to something more like what we're talking about is a traditionalism. However, during times of abundance, when we have a lot of resources and women no longer need men, the structure of society drastically changes into a certain type of society. And I believe
Decadent.
and I believe that I've seen this type of society coming from the Caribbean, coming from post-slavery,
Oh, okay.
right? So, and I think it is similar to what, let's say, MRAs and the Manosphere might describe when they talk about a society where only a few men get a lot of women and most women remain single. And there's a lot of promiscuity. They have, and there's a large pool of men who get left out of reproduction. So I think that the structure of society during times of abundance leaves a lot of men out of the genetic pool. And this is just speculation. And the speculation would be that it is because during times of abundance of resources, in a sense, we are genetically getting rid of certain genetics. So it's
Oh
like
yeah, it's like a
nature,
bottleneck. Yeah.
right? So nature sort of prioritizes the genetics, Whereas during times of really harsh, then you prioritize the numbers because numbers become more important for survival. So I think there are two sort of things that happen. Whereas,
Well, you can just look at the third world, for example, where they don't have a lot of resources, but they're having a lot of children, right?
right. So, but numbers become more important when you have no resources. But something like this, it's not all, so my idea on it is that yes, a feminist world could work. The structure that they
Yeah.
want with single women, and these single women will probably be sleeping with and having children for the same wealthy men. This is possible and it absolutely can work. I don't think it will happen because globalization probably throws some different things in there that nature wasn't, so we have to cater for certain things with globalization, in that men do have a choice to get women from other cultures if they want. But at the same time, I think that this structure can and does work in situations where you have a lot of resources and where women do not need men. And that is largely the situation in the West. Abundance of resources, women actually do not feel that they need men.
Yes. Well,
However,
that it's feminism can only exist in like this level of comfort, right?
However, what you have to also pay attention to is that this all probably exists, right? But there's diversity. So there are always going to be a group of women who literally prefer monogamy, and men as well, who just prefer monogamy and prefer that setup. And this is why, so what I get at, if I'm to take my speculation seriously, is that the only thing that would push us really back to a traditional society would be a reduction in resources. So if we become poorer, then we will be pushed back to traditionalism. But at the same time, there will always be traditional men and women within society. And feminists have to respect that.
Yes.
So
That's right.
I hope that they can respect that, because we are a part of society, and I think we're an important part of society. We have a function in terms of diversity, and we exist. And they
Yeah.
need to stop saying that we don't exist. That is the problem. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say that traditionalism can work for or should be the thing for all women, but I'm going to say that appeals to me, and I'm pretty sure that there are tons of women out there who that appeals to as well. I speak to these women. So can we please respect that and make it a part of being okay? Can
Yeah, yeah.
we make
But I
it
mean,
okay?
again, I don't think it's about what women want. I think feminism is only interested in itself, perpetuating itself and the need for itself, which is why they have to constantly come up with a new crisis that only feminism can solve and propagandize women into a state of fear and
But they've been really
paralysis.
successful, because you asked like how long I've been into this. Like when we were back in the day, 10 years ago, it was something like only 20% of women said they were feminists. Now 50%.
Yeah, because they're being conditioned. It is very successful, and of course there is the
They softened the
academia
definition.
and all of the propaganda, and they are always changing the meanings of words and such.
So they
Um,
softened the definition to say that once you're for equality, then you are.
yes, you
So
you must be a
50% of
feminist,
women,
right?
so 50% of women say they're for equality, so they must be a feminist. But feminism is not equality.
No.
So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I wanted to point out something. You were talking about how this is only possible in a time of great abundance. And I wanted to mention that isn't it really ironic that the only reason why we have all of this abundance is because of what men have done?
Of course,
Like,
feminists are constantly telling me that I'm standing on the back of feminists who died for my rights, who died for my right to vote and my right to be on YouTube and my right to do. And I'm always like, hello, whose back were feminists standing on? The feminists you're talking about, whose back are they standing on? Whose back is feminism standing on? It's
yeah,
standing on the back of men primarily, but it's also standing on the back of traditional society. So you
that's right.
telling me that I can't critique your feminism is like me back in the day telling feminists they can't critique traditionalism because they wouldn't be allowed to be feminists if traditional society didn't provide for them. Of course, traditional society created abundance, and it created so much abundance that they were able to create feminists. You understand? But feminists are standing on the backs of traditional society And everyone, of course, is standing on the backs of men, but we refuse to admit it. And this is the sick thing about feminism, because they refuse to give men credit. They just refuse. It's like, nope, 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 nope. I'm not gonna give him credit for anything he did. And it's like, yeah, but he did that. They did that.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely an issue of feminist ability to only live in the present moment and not look back at history unless they want to take credit for something that they didn't do. Like whatever women do something good, it's because of feminism made that possible. No matter what,
Yeah.
like no matter, and most of the time
they
successful
indoctrinate you with this. You couldn't vote. You couldn't open a bank account. You couldn't do this. You couldn't. They only mention. They just cherry pick. They completely cherry pick. They only mention. They don't mention what men couldn't do.
Yes.
And then they throw in a bunch of things that you couldn't do that was not even stuff that anyone wants to do. I mean, sometimes they even say you couldn't go to war and you couldn't, and it's like, what? And somebody once said, women complaining that they can't go to war is like white people complaining that they didn't get to be slaves. It's like, you couldn't go to war. I couldn't go to war.
Yeah.
Like, what is, they are crazy, yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
there are many. There are many. And a lot of it is fueled by the fact that feminists they recruit members because they have bad relationships. When women have a bad experience with men because of relationship issues, then yeah.
I was gonna mention. Okay, so we only got about 5 minutes left before I got to go into the patron show. So first of all, is there anything else you wanted to? There anything else you wanted to run by me or tell the audience about what you're doing or what you're trying to do?
Well, if any women are listening, I really would like to interview you on the Women Against Feminism channel, please. And if you'll see the link anywhere, please click on it and subscribe and show me some support, because non-feminists are the majority. Even though it doesn't seem like this, we're still the majority right now. And I think if we don't speak up, we will become a minority. Okay. I think non-feminist people need to speak up before it's too late, and basically give other people confidence to acknowledge that things aren't right and that feminism is not right. Because there are a lot of people who think things and then they're just like, okay, but everybody else goes along with this, maybe it's right, and they don't want to question it. But we need to gain the confidence to question things, to question feminism, and to question everything that they're saying. And yeah, so I just really hope that you could support Women Against Feminism. It's important for women to speak out. It's also important for men to speak out. Non-feminist people in general just need to speak out,
Yeah, for sure. And I put all your links in the description of this video so you guys can give her a shout out and follow her channel. So yeah, I appreciate that. And I wanted to mention one other thing before we go into the patron show. So you said the thing that let me ask it again just so I don't get it wrong. What was the thing that you said women want from men? Like generally that they want from men to feel safe? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think on a sexual
To
level.
submit? Yeah. No. In general,
Okay.
just.
There's this popular sort of notion now: the men are the protectors and the providers. This is what they say men are supposed to do, and I think that this is really unfair to men. I do get it that that's really unfair, because it's not so simple, and it puts a lot of pressure on men. So I don't want to say stuff like that to make men feel like they have pressure to, But
Yeah.
I can say, as a heterosexual female or whatever, I do believe that the distinction that what women crave from men is a feeling of safety, and they it sounds stupid, but I genuinely believe women crave to submit to men. This is what women, I mean, if you look at romance movies, Hallmark movies, I recently discovered, oh god, it would be too long, you said we only have 5 minutes, but
Okay.
look at Cinderella.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in the patron show with the patrons. So I wanted to say the one thing that I think that men want from women, and a lot of people think it's like sex or whatever, but I think ultimately men want women to bring them peace. That's what I think. I think they want to bring them. They want women to bring them peace, and I think that feminism makes women hostile, very aggressive. They treat their, and I think that this is the thing that frustrates a lot of men. So anyway, we'll talk more about it. Like this is just kind of like a little thing, but we'll talk more about it in the patron show. I'm gonna head in there now. So if you guys want to join us in the patron show, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com / subscribe so that you can jump into the patron show. You'll get a link to the YouTube video, which is unlisted, so you can continue watching. And if you give it a higher level, you can even join the Zoom call, which is what I'm in right now, and talk to Jana yourself. So that is feedthebadger.com / subscribe. Hopefully I will see you all there. So with that said, first of all, Jana, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Talking to us. Really appreciate it. I thought it was a great conversation. We're going to continue it for another hour. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Check out all of her links in the description so you can follow her on her socials, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.